So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about what I did and how I felt about the whole thing, and I'm going to use my little booklet for it because I cannot remember for the life of me what I did. On the Friday I went to 2 panels. The first one was Can We Be Friends with Alice Oseman, David Owen, Gail Foreman and Lauren Price, and it was just about like friendship in YA and how, and they talked a lot about friendship versus romance in YA and how there seems to be a lot more friendship these days and it used to be a lot more about romance. And it was just a really nice panel to sit in on because they all had different perspectives. They were all lovely as well. Like Alice Oseman was so nice, and it's made me actually more interested to pick up Gail Foreman's books because I've never read anything of hers before, but I know she's like one of the big heavy hitters in YA contemporary, but I've never read anything by her, and the way she was talking about her latest book actually sounded like something I'd enjoy, even if it is quite emo. Yeah. And then the next one I went to was Where Will You Be in 5 Years with Catherine Woodfine, Non Pratt, Sally Green and Sarah Bernard. I went to this because I've read Non Pratt's books and liked her. I love Sarah Bernard's books, and I really enjoyed Half Bad series by Sally Green, so I went to go to this panel and see what they were all talking about. And it was a panel about 5 years of YALC and their experiences being at YALC, because these were all people who have been at YALC quite a few times, and then how they feel things will change in the next 5 years and how they want things to change in the next 5 years in the YA, in British YA. And it was just a really interesting conversation because there was a lot of discussion of mental health, of racial diversity, and it was just like, it was nice. And then I also went to a few signings. So I went to the signing of Non Pratt, who was absolutely lovely, and she signed for hours and then signed again on the Saturday. And then I got Sarah Bernard to sign my books as well. Well, I got her to sign my notepad because I don't have any of her books physically. I always get them from the library or an Neck Alley, so yeah. But she was lovely as well. I wanted to go to Sally Green's signing, but her queue was really long and I could not be bothered, to be honest with you. And then I went to Alice Oseman signing, who was lovely. She's so nice. And I was talking to her about podcasts and stuff, and she's just nice. And then I went to the Catherine Webber signing, even though I haven't read any of her books, but I've always meant to. And she was so nice. And I was just like, I'm so sorry, I've not read any of your books yet, but I've bought them. And she's like, that's fine. So yeah. On the Saturday, I made sure to get there. Well, there wasn't much on until 11 o'clock that I was interested in, but I made sure to get there for like 10:30 because I knew the panel at 11 o'clock that I was interested in would be really busy because it had Tomi Adeyemi in it. And she is massive. But yeah, it was a panel called Politics on the Page, which was, it had Alice Skinner, Karen Gregory, Sarah Shafi, Tom Pollock, Tomi Adeyemi and Yaba Baido. And basically it was just about people talking about how every single book has politics in it and you can't just not have politics in your books. And it was just really interesting to sit on, especially like all of them had really interesting insights into mental health, racial stuff, sexual stuff. It was just like, oh, that's the kind of panel I love because it, like, politics to me is so important and everything we do is involving politics these days and always has been really. But I feel like especially now with YA, because so many young people have an interest in politics now because of Twitter, and it was just like I nearly started crying at one point in the panel because it was just like, it really got me. Especially hearing from Tomi Adeyemi, because she has just turned 25 and I'm 24 and I'm sitting here thinking, my god, look at this wonderful woman, she is doing so much in YA. And then later on in the day I went to the My Body My Way panel, which had Charlie Howard, Charlie Cox, Donielle Clayton, Laura Dockrell and Laura Stephen, and I had to go to that because Donielle Clayton. I love the Bells and I just feel like she's such a lovely woman. She's just so well spoken and oh, I just love her. I love Donielle Clayton so much. And I've just finished Tiny Pretty Things and I love that as well. So yeah, I had to go to the panel, and it was a really interesting panel because it was talking about like the way women's, young girls' bodies are treated and how fat is so wrong, and but it's not wrong. Yeah. Am I still okay? And so I went to a few signings on the Saturday, although the Saturday was the most hectic day ever because they had all the heavy hitters on that day, which I don't think was the smartest idea. Like, I know because it's a Saturday, like, they wanted to put everything on that day because, like, a lot of people won't go on Sunday because transport's different, and a lot of people won't go on Friday because they've got work. But it just didn't, it was very hectic on that day. Compared to the rest of the weekend, it was a bit much. So I wanted to go to the Tomi Adeyemi signing, but by the time I got to the queue, because I was actually doing things like, I went to her panel and I went and got like these like lipsticks done that was like to do with her book. So it was like I was getting involved in stuff to do with the book, and then I got to the signing queue and it was just so long, which I just found kind of frustrating, to be honest. But I'll talk about that in a bit. So yeah, I didn't get to meet Tomi Adeyemi, but it meant I was really early in the queue for meeting Samantha Shannon, which I desperately want to be in the queue for because I've never met her before and I really liked Bone Season, as well as if you were in that queue you got a raffle ticket to win one of 2 copies of The Power of the Orange Tree, which I didn't win, but it was worth a shot. And she was lovely, and she was just talking about like how she can't believe how many people are in her queue despite the fact that she's always there and always signing, and I was just like, well, I came from Scotland, and she was like, oh, clearly everyone's come from Scotland, and we just had a wee laugh and it was nice. And then I wanted to go to the Tom and Giovanna Fletcher signing, but that was ticketed from the morning and there was no way in hell I was getting a ticket to that, as well as because you had to buy a book to get a ticket, which I was like I don't feel that's fair. I was going around with a lot of offers with like a wee notepad. I was treating it like my kind of Disney autograph signing book, really, because like a lot of offers I'll get from the library I'll have in my ebook, and I don't have all the physical copies of every single author I want to meet. So yeah, so I was kind of just annoyed about that, so I didn't meet them, but oh well. And then I went to the Doniel Clayton signing, which was ticketed, which I didn't expect to be ticketed, but it doesn't matter because I met her anyway, and she was lovely, and she told me a secret, and I don't even know if the secret's out yet, but I was just like, oh my god, she's told me a secret! I felt so special in that moment, and she was so lovely. She was so nice to talk to. Oh, I want to read everything she's written because she's just like the nicest woman. And then on the Sunday I went to a fair few panels actually. I went to the Real World Real Me panel with Akemi Don-Bowman, Eve Ainsworth, Holly Bourne, Lisa Williamson and Lydia Ruffles, which was about like, it talked about a lot of mental health stuff because these are all authors that have done stuff to do with mental health and physical disabilities, and it was just like, it was a really good panel. I really liked that panel. And then I went to the Who Am I panel with Anna James, Jenny McLaughlin, Marika Nijkamp and Muhammad Khan, and that was all about like what makes a person and how important books are to look into, like people finding who they are and stuff. Like Muhammad Khan, who was absolutely wonderful, spoke a lot about how he was a teacher, and a lot of his students would come up to him and talk to him about not knowing who they were, especially a lot of his Muslim students, because they struggled with who they are because of the way the world is right now and everything's against them. And Marika Nijkamp spoke a lot about their things with finding gender and sexuality and stuff, and I was just like, oh, it was a nice panel. And then I kind of sat in conversation with Juno Dawson and Melvin Burgess, which was a lot about drugs and stuff. But it was 4 o'clock on a Sunday after the most hectic 3 days. I wasn't really paying attention, but from what I heard every now and again, it was nice. Yeah. And for signings, I met Muhammad Khan, who was absolutely lovely. He's so nice. I really need to read his books soon because he's just so nice. And then I met Marika Nijkamp, again, so nice. Need to read their books. I actually just have a problem. I can't read people's books apparently. And then after that I went to the Akemi Don-Bowman signing, which was ticketed, which I didn't really understand why it was ticketed, but yeah, she was lovely. And then I went to Holly Bourne's signing, and I spoke to her a lot about like how much her books mean to me as an older reader, thinking about younger readers now, and how much, if I was a young reader now, how much it would mean to me having someone writing books like she does, because she talks so much about feminism in her books, and I feel like it's really good for younger kids. I think that was it, really. That was it for what I did. In terms of the whole event, I thought for the most part it was run really well. I didn't feel very stressed out the whole weekend. There was a couple of stressful times, but it wasn't too bad. The one thing I would have to say though was the signings were a bit higgledy-piggledy, I felt. When they weren't, like, there was a lot of space for queuing, which was good, but when it was a really popular author, there was not much space. And the problem was, that I found, was by the Sunday they were ticketing the queues that got longer than like 30 people, whereas on the Friday they weren't doing that. It was like, they suddenly realised by the Sunday they needed to be doing it the whole time, and it was just a bit of a mess, because you didn't know whether you were going to get ticketed or not, and it was kind of just really annoying. Especially because all the people who worked for LFCC didn't have loud voices, so you had to stay in the area because they were like yelling the numbers, but you couldn't hear them bloody yelling them because they were just so quiet. Like they needed a speaker, is it speakerphone? No, whatever. They needed like something to put their voices out there, and it was just like really annoying. And the other thing I want to talk about was ARCs. So I'm not upset I didn't get many ARCs. Like, it happens, it doesn't bother me. Some people got a load and some people didn't get any. I'm not that bothered. That wasn't why I was there. It would have been nice to get more, but I'm not bothered. But what I would say is, so they changed things this year. Instead of having like random drops like they had in previous years, they made it raffles mostly, which is really good because it made it more accessible for people who were disabled, had chronic pain and couldn't like run to ARC drops like the rest of us abled people, and that's great. But my problem was a lot of stands just had raffle tickets for like 5 or 6 copies of ARCs, and I just felt like there could have been more copies. They could have done more inventive things than just raffles. Like, I really liked what YALC did. They had, on the Friday, they had every hour on the hour. They had 10 ARCs of the same ARC, not the Caged Queen, the Girl King. So, and what they did was they had a box which had a bunch of leaves in it. Some were white and some were red, and if you picked up a red one, that meant you got an ARC. And you could try it over and over again until they'd run out of copies on that hour, which I thought was really good because there was more copies and it was more inventive than just a raffle, especially because it felt like you were actually there for something, whereas like if you go for a raffle, you're just standing there whilst they call numbers, and if it's not your number then you've just wasted time. And also, like, so many of them are doing raffles. You ended up coming home with like 10 raffle tickets in your purse, not knowing what the fuck they were. And I forgot about a lot of raffles because I was doing other things. Yeah. But those were the only 2 things I really wanted to talk about, really. I think the thing I really liked about the weekend was I got to meet so many bloggers who I've known, who I didn't know, and now follow me, and we follow each other, and it's just nice. I got to speak to a bunch of publicists, and it was just like a really nice weekend for networking for me, because like I've been in blogging and stuff for 2 years now, and obviously being in Scotland I don't meet any of these people really, because a lot of them don't, well, a lot of the offices are in London and there's not many book signings up here in YA stuff, so it was just nice to like chill out and meet the people that I've been emailing constantly. And also I saw Jason Momoa about 5 times because he kept walking back and forth, and he is the most attractive man I've ever seen. So yeah, I had a lovely time at YALC, and hopefully I can go next year, although it was super expensive for me because like hotel, flights, food, yeah, kind of whipped out my bank account a bit. But yeah, it was a really good weekend and I'm so glad I went, even though it's taken me 2 years to get there. So yeah, thanks for watching. Give me a like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the notification bell. You can find me at Twitter, Instagram and Goodreads at Smeared Eyes, and you can find me on my blog where I post all my book reviews, kirstyreadsblog.wordpress.com. Thanks for watching, everyone!